Hello and welcome to the Yard Red Festival here on the ESFX HeflaTV stream. This is going to be the first game of the actual event of the Red Yard Festival. It's going to be a best of three between Denial Esports and hehe Random Will Finals SF. They've been changing their name around a little bit, but it's hehe United. There you have it, and I'm Grandis V, and I'll be joined for this game, or this series rather, by Mr. Blackadder.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and well, I think we're off to one hell of a start already. We get Denial up against hehe. Hehe have a habit of providing us with aggressive shenanigans, I think I'll say, Grandis. I think that's the best way of explaining it. And Denial have been on form lately. I do like watching and casting them.
Yeah, aggressive shenanigans are always fun to watch. I haven't watched hehe in this current patch, but they're going to start things off with a first pick Wisp.
Well, first pick Wisp. We're looking for something to go pair with this, maybe the Tiny, maybe the Chaos Knight, just something that can get in the enemy's face, more or less. I mean, I even saw, what was it? It was an IO with a Bristleback the other day as well, so all are possible. And Wisp as a hero, I honestly like him in this form of meta. It goes with the whole aggressive team fighting style. The ability to have two extra heroes in any fight is always a nice thing. And, well, we all know the shenanigans that an IO can get up to, be it aggressively TPing to get a friend out of a tight jam with the relocate, or just going balls to the wall aggressive. But flip side of the coin for Denial, Treant Protector, and the Bat Rider.
Yeah, if you ignore the bans, this is looking more like 6.78 than 8.2. Batrider, Treant Protector, a very peculiar starting first two from Denial Esports. The Batrider makes a decent amount of sense to me, still a really solid offlaner. His pickoff potential is pretty much unrivaled by any hero, really. Treant Protector, however, I'm kind of on the fence of the hero right now. With the way that the game is starting to evolve, where games are going longer, Tree is feeling like more of an attractive pick than he was in 6.81, although I'm still kind of on the fence. It's nice to have the overgrowth disabling through BKB, but honestly, I think you can leave that hero till later on in the draft if you really want to pick up your Tree.
I would tend to agree with that. I mean, he can be picked up later on without much guarantee that he'll be banned. As a control hero, as a overgrowth user, it's fairly nice, but there's something that I've been wanting to see at least one team experiment with, and that's the Aghanims upgrade, considering it brings back the oldest ability in all of Dota, near enough, the Eyes of the Forest.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun to watch. I doubt we're going to see a Tree getting enough farm, but if the game does go late and he's able to accrue that gold, it would be very interesting to see, in fact, and just expanding the range of the overgrowth in and of itself is already really nice, and then you get that global vision. I don't know, it's pretty sweet to watch. But yeah, I doubt we'll be seeing it. I'd love to watch it be experimented with, though, as you said. I think that hehe are going to snag up their partner for the Wisp, but it's going to be a Spectre, so maybe not. A Spectre pick following up the Wisp, a lot of global potential from these two, although they're usually not paired together. If they do pick up another hero that combos decently well with the Wisp, maybe not even as a safe lane farmer, but something on the lines of a tempo controlling mid that could just benefit from the global presence. I don't know, it could be pretty scary if they're able to get off the ground, although their early game is going to be fairly weak. Spectre and Wisp, not necessarily great laners.
No, I would completely agree to that, but in the new version of the game that I've seen played lately, Spectre does fit in quite well. She can brawl reasonably early, and you don't necessarily have to go for a Radiance. I mean, lately I've seen an uprise of, say, Diffusal on Spectre once more with the likes of a Crimson Guard, and Crimson Guard is a very powerful item no matter how you look at it, and consider what it does. Reduces physical damage taken by an absolute boatload. Yeah. It's going to take away of the potential right-click of the Treant, the Bat Rider. It's all going to be very nice, but the Wisp and the Spectre together, I'm thinking maybe safe lane Spectre with a Dazzle and a mid lane Wisp with, say, a Tiny, if it's not banned out here. But I honestly expect the Tiny to be taken away pretty damn sharpish.
I'm not sure if I really want to see the Tiny. That would be a tad greedy. I don't know. They need a lot of ways to make space with their offlaner as well as their other support. It definitely could be doable, but I'm not sure if it's going to be banned by Denial. Potentially will, as it's just the best hero to pair with Wisp, almost bar none. I'd love to see the Wisp paired with the likes of a Sven, or maybe something a little bit more aggressive than the Tiny, that could fight immediately once you get level 6, and that would be a lot of fun to see, but honestly I'm not sure. It's just so weird to see these two heroes picked up first, and I'm loving it.
Well, an Alchemist could work for if you want a mid lane with an IO, so could a Chaos Knight, and honestly I would love to see a Chaos Knight. It's one of my favorite heroes in the game, but odds are we won't see it, mainly because the CK doesn't have much in flash farming potential. Sure, you get a lot of kill potential, especially as you get that level 3 through to level 6, but I'm unsure if we're going to be seeing a CK in this game. And considering the bans that are coming out of Denial, they're taking away the big heavy split pushes as well as the teamfight potential of an Ancient Apparition. So they might ban the Tiny here, and that would fit with their current logic in their bans.
It's going to be the Nature's Prophet instead, another global hero with the global TP. If they had the Nature's Prophet, as well as something to pair with the Wisp in mid, it could instantly be 4 heroes right on top of you, and that 5th is probably not very important. A teamfight could break out literally anywhere. So in that sense, it would be a nice pick for them, although, again, a tad greedy.
Well, if you can make the greed pay off, then it's more than worthwhile in the long run. But I'm expecting, I was going to say, I'm expecting something aggressive from Denial to try to deter hehe from taking these greedier picks, and the Clinks can certainly accomplish that. Very good roaming gank, especially once he gets that Orchid. Wisp has 0 base armor to start with. That's going to be very unpleasant for him. Shadow Demon doesn't have much in terms of armor himself, so the Clinks is certainly going to be looking to do some work in this game.
And even if Spectre decides to rush towards a Diffusal or Radiance without backing off for a little bit of HP yourself, the Clinks could rip through the Spectre pretty easily. There's going to be a window where Clinks is the scariest hero on the map, but whoa, hehe. These picks, Shadow Demon, Dazzle, and Wisp, all on the pitch. How are these lanes going to work out for them? In a vacuum, Shadow Demon and Dazzle is a great supporting combo, as is Shadow Demon Wisp, or Wisp Dazzle. But who's actually going to be getting the core farm here?
That's a hard one to call. I mean, part of me could think you could put some core farm on an IO. I've seen it once or twice in the pro scene, total in all my time playing Dota. It would let you get a very early relocate and such, because that would then leave you with the Shadow Demon Dazzle, which is an incredibly powerful support combination, as we all know, but part of me would love to see a return of the old guard, the Shadow Demon in that mid lane, a very good mid lane hero back in the day. And now with the Pugna pickup for Denial, I'm not sure that's even going to be a wise idea. It's going to punish the excessive spam of spells, and honestly, even without seeing this 5th hero for hehe, I'm liking Denial's draft.
Yeah, I am too. The Treant Protector feels a little bit out of place, kind of a more passive hero that's going to be protecting the towers, but I don't know. I really do like what Denial are bringing to the table. A lot of damage, magical as well as physical, as well as their ability to lock down targets. Despite not having the most amount of stuns, the Batrider Lasso is enough, and then they have some good silences as well from the Orchid of the Clinks, presumably going to be building into that, and the Skywrath Mage's silence. Venomancer's the last pick for hehe. I don't know where their lineup is going. It's kind of a 4 Protect 1 lineup, although it's not 4 Protect 1 in the traditional sense where you have space creators. It's kind of just, I don't know, it's not really gelling together for me. You have a lot of good stuff kind of clumping together into a conglomerate that just doesn't make sense.
They've got some pushing power, they've got the ability to gank with the relocate, but no traditional pairing for it. I suppose you could go IO Venomancer and appear, hit a Gale, hit a Nova. But draft-wise, I'm liking Denial's a bit better, and I'm going to come out and say my money on this one. I'm going to put my bet on Denial. But hehe have proven us wrong before. It's going to be interesting to see what they can show us.
Yeah. I would love to be proven wrong. It is going to be Excalibur playing on that Spectre as a stand-in, as well as a stand-in on the Shadow Demon, so I don't know, their synergy as a team is going to be changing around, and as we jump into this game, it is going to be hehe on the Radiant side with the supporting duo, I believe, going to be the Shadow Demon played by the Coon and his on the IO, presumably going towards the mid lane, actually, with those starting items. Chip Sagan going to be playing on the Dazzle, Venomancer handled by HWA, and Spectre is going to be played by Excalibur.
And of course, on the flip side of that coin, over for Denial, we've got Paris handling the Batrider. Then over towards the top lane right now, we've got Funzy on the Pugna. We have Creo on the Skywrath Mage, Fucking Mad on the Treant Protector, and finally, rounding out the entire team for Denial, we've got Joral on the Clinks.
Currently, Clinks is going to potentially spot eyes onto Excalibur. They are going to ping out the Clinks, and presumably did catch eyes onto him. So they should know how these lanes are going to work out for either side. It's an aggressive tri-lane coming out from hehe. Incredibly peculiar from them. I think it would be better to just leave the Spectre farming up against the Batrider. With support, it's a lane that Spectre definitely can handle. But instead, they're going to leave the Venomancer solo versus the Batrider, which again is a lane that the Batrider can't really do very much about. You can't clear the Plague Wards very easily. I'm still kind of on the fence here about this lineup. The early level 6 for the Wisp is going to be really nice for them. But is it going to be enough? This Wisp needs to do a whole lot of work with that early level 6 if I'm really going to like this pick for them.
Here we go.
Well, I've got Nihis in the middle lane, and it's up against Funzy on that Pugna. And as a general rule of thumb, Pugna will completely destroy this lane. Not only does he have a better int scaling per level at a whole 4 int per level, he's going to be right-clicking harder onto Nihis, who has 0 armor. He's going to be dropping those Nether Blasts, pushing the lane and getting early towers if there isn't good rotations. And as a general rule of thumb, I'm not going to bet up against the Pugna in this matchup.
Yeah, I don't think so either, and if the IO does get an early level 6, he is going to be leaving the lane, and that's going to give Funzy the time of his life. He wants to just have free uptime on the tower, and he'll probably get that. Clinks at the early level hasn't put his point to searing arrows just yet, so last hitting might be a little bit problematic for Jral here, as he just doesn't want to commit fully to the searing arrows, as that might give them the go-ahead in order to go aggressive on him. This combo of the Shadow Demon and Dazzle can pump out a whole lot of physical damage, and Klink's not very much HP to start things off. That Shadow Wave could do a whole lot of damage if he does get caught out, but for now he's just going to play fairly passively. Wait for the lane to push into his tower, and then he'll start getting some CS.
That's honestly what I would expect. He's just going to farm when he knows it's safe, because, well, you mentioned the physical damage coming out of a Shadow Wave. Disruption Shadow Wave, you cannot underestimate that level of damage, especially onto a Klinks. And how much base armor does a Klinks have? Only 2. Not much. It's going to be quite nice in the favor of Hehe United if they can win that aggressive tri-lane. And it is a tri-lane supporting the Spectre aggressively, so if Excalibur can get a good amount of farm here, maybe even a kill, this could certainly work out, but not the traditional aggressive tri that we are used to, per se. We might be seeing a little bit of action here, as we do have fucking Mad as well as Creo rotating in. Might look to go on Excalibur here, but we're going to start hitting some damage into Cocoon instead. This is the nice thing about the tri-lane for Denial. They have the physical damage. Just look how much damage they do per hit onto Chip's Agent here. I mean, they're going to use the disruption by some time, but that last searing arrow comes through, and Jor-Al will pick up the first blood.
Yeah, Dazzle just finding himself in a very awkward corner. He was forced to tango through the trees, but it was enough time so that Denial was able to pick up the first blood. In this lane, I think that Hehe are going to be okay if they don't get kills of their own, but they can't give those up, as it's just going to be too much experience and gold going the way of Denial, and it's going to be hard for Excalibur to farm comfortably. I was expecting the first blood to be in this top lane. I wasn't sure how it would go down, but Dazzle just taking the wrong path. Bounty Rune is going to be secured by these two supports. They're not the best roaming duo, but they definitely can do some work as long as there's a little bit of lockdown. The killing potential on bottom lane is okay, but really they just need to sit behind the Spectre and make sure she gets some farm. They do secure a D-ward on the ward spot coming out from Denial, and they're actually going to smoke up, potentially looking towards mid. Let's see if this is going to work out for them.
I honestly don't think this is going to work out unless they can catch Funzy on no health if he walks forward too far, and that could be the case here. It's going to be a case of disruption into a Shadow Wave, I think, especially with the tether forward from Nihis. That's going to be incredibly unpleasant, and, well, Funzy just gets blown up.
Yeah, the Shadow Wave is going to be one of the most damaging spells at level 1 if you can get all of those units around them in the perfect surround. Yep, they do find the Spectre, and she'll be brought down. Too much damage. The Spectral Dagger was thrown out, but it's not enough to keep her safe. 2 points up in the Searing Arrows for Jral. Just, I don't know, too much ways that they can chase down the Spectre.
Well, you got to remember, they're throwing on top of the sheer physical damage the concussive shot. That's just going to slow it down more than enough. And Jor-El, sure, he hits for 90 with that Searing Arrow. They're going to try to go for the Shadow Wave, but it's not going to be anywhere near enough to finish him off. Now they're going to go for the turnaround. Fucking Mad does have that right click, and this is going to hurt. That tree hits for over 90, so all it'll take is 2 to 3 right clicks onto the Cocoon, and he will go down. If they can finish him off, that'll be absolutely perfect. But they're going to turn around and go to Chip's Agent instead. Shallow Graves himself, trying to buy him enough time. He does have another healing wave in a Shadow Wave in 5 seconds, but can they get anything out of this? They're going to turn around on Jor-El, and especially with that assist from Nihis, that's going to go their way. So getting something up here on this top lane at least.
But still, the Spectre isn't farming very well. Only 5 CS here, tied with the Tree and Protector and dying once. Excalibur's game impact is going to be very limited. Kill score is tied 2 to 2, but Denial are going to be fairly happy with how these lanes are working out. The Pugna's left alone in mid, going to get a decent amount of chip damage off into that tier 1 tower, and their Batrider is having the time of his life. And in fact, is going aggressive up against HWA. He's taking a lot of damage in return, but 4 stacks of sticky napalm. He might be able to burn down this Venomancer. He's moving pretty darn fast with that haste rune. He is going to be able to right-click him down, Paris well on his way towards a very fast Blink Dagger.
Indeed, if he can get that Blink Dagger online in the next few minutes, it could be an absolute disaster for Hehe United. I mean, he's under 1,000 gold necessary to finish that dagger off now. So absolutely perfect for Denial on that bottom lane, at least.
Yep. So it is going to be Dazzle picking up a little bit of room in mid to secure himself some levels. Dazzle scales pretty well, and with the Wisp rotating around already, that's completely acceptable. Wisp is almost at that crucial level 6, which is one of hehe's larger tools in order to make kills happen around the map. Once they have level 6 on Spectre as well as on the Wisp, they can isolate pretty much any hero and just overwhelm them with numbers. Although their lockdown isn't that great, they have the damage if they're able to find just 1 or 2 heroes out alone.
But this is something I'm quickly considering here. I would ask one of the statsmen if we had one available for today, but when was the last time we saw a mid-wisp? When was the last time in memory that you think we saw one? Because this is actually working quite well as top lane. He could be losing a Clinks here. He's taking a lot of right-click, but Joral will manage to escape this one with that skeleton walk.
Only just. He is going to live with 19 HP, as the poison damage is almost enough to take down Joral. If they got one more auto attack, it would have been a kill. But either way, yeah, Wisp is a fairly decent mid laner. Just being able to shove out the wave with the spam of the Wisp spirits. Oh, I can't remember the last time that I saw it. The last one that stands in my memory was Dendi playing it in the TI3 finals. But that was forever ago. So I'm not sure. It has been quite a long time.
Well, Battle Wisp in some ways can work, especially when you get a Shadow Demon and a Dazzle, because the tether will bring you within range to get an extra Shadow Wave source of damage onto a target, should they catch one in a disruption. That's what we saw with the kill on Funzy in the middle lane, so it does have some potential, but I'm thinking it's going to fall off a bit too quick considering the damage and carry potential out of Denial versus Hehe United, unless this Spectre just becomes huge.
I think that's fair. We already kind of saw the combo. If you time it correctly and get the curse onto them, you can get all of the spirits from the Wisp to blow up at the same time, doing a ridiculous amount of damage, but it's going to fall off faster than you would like, kind of as you already mentioned. Level 6 is available for the Wisp. We have yet to see a relocate. There's still no boots on this island.
He has relocated. He just relocated back to base to get healed up, but now in comes the gank. This could go very badly for Nihis, and he just cannot survive this level of damage. He'll go down to the life drain of Funzy.
Yeah, I see the Wisp just finds himself in a very awkward corner as the nuke damage coming out, amplified by the Ancient Seal. It's too much for him to stand up against. Ooh, that's your first relocate used, and it does nothing, as it doesn't even save the Wisp his life. Shadow Demon gets a little bit of room in this middle lane. It's not enough to really make up for the fact that this early game just isn't working out for hehe. Their Venomancer is getting okay farm in bottom, but then again, it's just okay. It's nothing too great. Eventually, he'll be able to push down this tier 1 tower, but even that isn't taking that much damage.
Well, getting some tower damage, sure, absolutely fine. Getting early towers, nice. But with all the changes to 6.82 and the fact that it's now a little bit more teamfight oriented, you got more heroes coming back in the day, like Batrider, we're seeing more of him. Shadow Demon, Dazzle, their combo is back. We've got, say, the likes of the Clinks we've seen more often lately. And now you've got Blink Dagger as well for that Batrider. It's the more brawling, fight-heavy style of gameplay. Less about pushing, more about just getting a good set of fights and keeping momentum throughout a game. So I'm thinking the Venomancer is not going to have a very fun game at all in this case.
Excalibur barely escaping up in top lane, just taking too much damage. Luckily enough for him, the Grave was coming out from the Dazzle to keep himself alive. If they want to go for those kills reliably, they'll need to silence up Chipsaken, but either way, it's still a Spectre that's not farming very well. 24 CS at 8 minutes in, 8.5 almost, is very lackluster, and not where you want your Spectre to be, especially if you are running it as your pretty much only farmer in the game.
Well, this is where my curiosity is going to come in here. The potential for damage, and well, here we go. Paris just goes for HWA. He's going to be in a lot of trouble. Dragged under the tower, within tower range, as well as the flame break. But can they finish him off? No, they actually got Nihis rotating in, and this might be enough to get HWA out of there. They didn't fully commit and finish off the Venomancer. They thought that he would just burn down to the Firefly, but Nihis on point, saving the Venomancer's life in this case.
It's going to be relocate for the first usage of the lasso after the Blink Dagger, so I'm going to say that that's worth it for hehe blowing the relocate for that, or not really blowing it, but utilizing the relocate for that. Although, they'd much rather be getting kills with it. 2 to 4 kills scored. Denial are still looking pretty solid. Pugna, with an Invis rune, is going to be rotating down towards bottom, working towards that mechanism after the bottle. Has quite a decent amount of mana to throw into this tower, although the lane's not pushing in close enough. In mid, might be where we see a little bit of action. Spectre might get caught out, flunked upon by the Batrider, now just ripped apart by the Clinks. Searing Arrow is proving to be too much damage as they relocate in. They do have the Shadow Demon, Dazzle as well as Wisp, and they blow up the Batrider, that Shadow Wave, doing a ridiculous amount of damage, and Io finishing it off with one of his spirits. Venomancer also, in the meantime, dying down towards the bottom lane. It was just Funzy and effing Mad that were able to bring that down. Lead Seed, as well as with the amplified Pugna Blast, I believe.
Well, the potential for damage is huge on both sides. Denial have the sources of the Pugna and effing Mad. I mean, effing Mad hits like an absolute truck the entire point of the Treant. On the flip side of the coin, you do have the 1-2 punch of Disruption into Shadow Wave. I mean, it's quite nice to see, but Disruption Shadow Wave's only going to get you so far. I mean, it's going to fall off, and it will fall off in one of the earlier points of this game compared to later. We could see some form of heavy negative armor on the Spectre, maybe a AC or a Desolator, but I would much prefer to see something else instead. But mid lane, Funzy, in a lot of trouble, does get Purge, and he's going to fall even without the healing combo. But I would expect to see things like that Manta, maybe a Radiance onto Excalibur instead, but he actually did die on that top lane to Paris on that Batrider, so the entire game very fight-oriented, very gank-oriented, and still not seeing a reliable amount of farm on the Spectre, considering she's 30 for 3 up against, say, the top of this, which is Denial with Paris on that Batrider at 61 and 3, over doubling the CS.
And currently the Spectre is behind the Treant Protector in net worth. It's just not a great game to be the Spectre. They need a lot more time for Excalibur to come online. Those items, in theory, would be wonderful, but he needs the farm in order to do that, and right now he's just not being able to find it. There's not a safe place on this map when you have a blinking Batrider, as well as a Clinks that's roaming invis. As nice as the global presence from hehe is, it's still pretty solid coming out from Denial as well. They're getting good levels on their supports, which is nice for this portion of the game, but come about 10 minutes in, it's all going to be about the Spectre. Right now, I don't think Excalibur has it in him to continuously do that damage. The Clinks is, Orchid's not going to come for quite some time, but he can just right-click down Excalibur and force him back. Very little committed from the Clinks.
I'll agree to that, and I'm actually surprised we don't see a couple of points coming into the dispersion for Excalibur on that Spectre. That'll just help in terms of dealing some damage back while he's getting harassed at least, but not the case this game. He's gone for a more pure damage-oriented build with high points and Spectral Dagger as well as Desolate, so maybe looking for having that global presence of the Haunt when they can get a good fight. But that's the point. When can they get a good fight in this case?
They don't have anything reliable in order to set up that good fight, and it's going to rely very heavily on Denial making mistakes and getting caught out of position, and right now, that's not happening. Batrider down in bottom has a Blink Dagger, and they're going to jump straight onto HWE. Lasso not necessary, or will it be that Dazzle is going to drop the Grave onto the Venomancer? They might have wanted to commit a little bit harder for that, but even then, they did relocate in the Dazzle for that, and as nice as the defensive capabilities of this combo is, the Wisp has only used that relocate defensively. It saved 2 out of 3 of the kills, but they're still losing too much out of this map. Top tier 1 tower is going to fall in the hands of Funzy as well as Jaral.
Oh, that's the nice thing about the Clinks. Searing Arrows help shred those towers in combination with the Pugna. That's a large amount of pushing power. Honestly, when you think retrospectively about it, I'm surprised we didn't see more Clinks in 6.81, considering Searing Arrows can damage buildings fairly easily, he can gank. Sure, there are more reliable offlaners, but it's something that I'm surprised we didn't see more of in hindsight.
Yeah. I don't know, this Venomancer has been trying his best to put chip damage onto this tier 1 tower. He can rip through the living armor when he has wards down, but every time that they're taken out, it's just getting healed up. So this tier 1 tower is not going to fall very effectively. It's more or less negating the Venomancer's impact this game. He's going for a Necro Book on the Venomancer, but he's nowhere close to having that completed, and honestly a mechanism for his team probably would have suited them better. I was going to be the one to build that item, although it's not going to come for quite some time with only the headdress.
Well, just having the headdress, it's not going to be anywhere near enough at least. They need more. They honestly do need more. And on that point, we might be seeing a bit of a scrap mid if we're not careful here. Nihil's still lurking around. Very low armor for him still. And Joral is right there. And if there's anyone that can kill a Wisp very quickly, it's that Clinks.
Yeah, Clinks is going to back off for a fairly late hand of Midas this game. Not a huge fan of this choice. I think going straight for the Orchid would have been better. In fact, Orchid this game might not be his choice at all. It's still pretty nice. Up against Spectre, you can stop the Haunt from coming out, and just the amplified damage is enough to bring down these smaller targets, like the Wisp, Venomancer, Dazzle, and Shadow Demon. So in that sense, maybe going for the later Orchid is just fine. But yeah, he's going to be able to take this game fairly late. If you look at his items compared to the Spectre's, he's currently a full Midas ahead, as well as 1100 gold in the bank. It doesn't actually matter. He's still hitting harder and having a more game impact than the Spectre alone, and that's going to be the case for the next 30 minutes, I feel. Or even if the Spectre gets any items on top of it.
They throw the Purge on effing mad, and now they're going to try for the turnaround, but the Coon does eat a full Mystic Flare. The Shallow Grave going to keep them alive a bit more, but the Netherward's down now. That's going to deter any more fighting, at least for a few seconds. But now, in comes that Clinks. Jor-El just trading blows. Paris comes in, spreading that Firefly. The Coon will most likely go down in the back lines, and now do we see any more aggression? They're going to charge in. Can they find Nihis? I don't think so. They're not going to be able to catch up anywhere near in time. Maybe the Clinks can, though, but he doesn't have any form of crowd control or silence to him available yet, and that does mean Chip Surgeon can just Shallow Grave, but HWA will go down. Or will he? No, last arrow doesn't manage to finish the job with the overcharge coming through from Nihis. Nihis playing the roaming medic in this game, and we do get a little turnaround harassment thrown into Jor-El, but it's not going to be enough at the end of the day, and this is why I was thinking, early Orchid, silence up that Dazzle, no Shallow Grave allowed. It just completely destroys any form of regroup potential from HeHe United if they cannot Shallow Grave and save someone.
Yeah, even though they are saving people, it's still 4-8 in our kill score. Denial have missed out on, I believe, 4 kills because of the Wisp rotating in with that relocate, as well as just healing them up with the overcharge, making sure that they take less damage. But even so, it's still Denial that have control over the map, and the Batrider now with the Force Staff. This is pretty much the peak of the Batrider. You can get a BKB later on, but that actually doesn't stop very much coming out from HeHe. They have the Demonic Purge. That's really their only tool, bar the Disruption, to actually help out targets that get lassoed. If they lasso the Shadow Demon, they're high and dry. If they lasso Chip Sagan, pretty similar story. Especially when you have the likes of Jor-El right-clicking them down. The Wisp is currently farming up this small camp. They might get vision of the orbs, and Wisp might be in some trouble. He just spied out the Clinks, but on the sidelines, they pull back the Coon into the Roshan pit, or onto the high ground, rather, around the pit. They are going to drop a Mystic Flare, walks back into it, and then disrupts. Very interesting play, although he's being healed up throughout the entirety of this, and he is going to get more or less a full heal, and then relocated out. He's going to survive, but again, relocate traded for the lasso. This relocate's doing nothing for them.
They haven't got any aggressive kills with this relocate at all. It's been a purely defensive tool, and this does keep HeHe United on the back foot. If they cannot make use of this offensively, and it's 100% a defensive tool, it's not even a full team investment from Denial to force this. They can have 3 people mess around with the Wisp and the rest of the team, and then have 2 split pushing if they really wanted to, or 4 and 1, depending on how defensive or offensive they want to be. But now effing mad has rotated back in. The big siege is here from HeHe United. They want to try to get something, but the overgrowth is there. They're trying to burst down the Coon, but this disruption will buy them enough time. He's going to come back up, and now in comes Paris. Shallow Grave is there, going to buy the Coon some more time, but he should still burn down. Technically, one big right click will be more than enough from any one of these heroes to finish it off, and it will eventually be an Arcane Bolt coming through from Creo at the end of the day.
Tower still defended by Denial. There's nothing that HeHe can do to take down this tower. The Treant is looking a lot more attractive. I would have liked to see it later on in the draft, but honestly, it's doing its job very effectively. It's been involved in 6 of the kills coming out from Denial, just with the Leech Seed as well as the punches early game, and it's going to be a Blink on our Clinks next. It's an item that I like seeing on Clinks, but honestly, after the Midas, I'm kind of torn about it. You're filling up those item slots, and you're going to be delaying any large damage or BKBs or anything of the sorts on Jor-El, but still, with this item, he can chase very effectively, so no matter how long they're sustaining those heroes, it's only a matter of time before Jor-El's able to just blink and demolish that hero that's being saved. It's an interesting choice. I like it when you have an Orchid on top of it. I would like to see this Midas replaced, honestly, in this build.
I would be one to agree with that. I do like the pickup of the Blink Dagger. It does make you into a glass cannon, since the downside of Strafe is you have to just stand there and dish out as much damage as you can. With a Blink Dagger, you get 2 instances where you can just stand there and be an absolute cannon. The downside, he doesn't have a BKB or any excess survivability, bar the Skeleton Walk, which can, of course, just be countered by the Dust. And it's a curious build. I mean, as you mentioned, there is that Midas there. That is an initial investment of its own. It will pay off in the long run, but do Denial really want to let this go excessively late? I think they can win this in the relatively early side of this game, before the Midas should be able to repay, well, fully pay itself off. I mean, consider a Midas alone. You get a 2,050 gold loan that you invest into a Midas, and then the Midas will pay itself off over time.
In mid,
if the game ends. Yeah,
let's see. Spectre holding on to a lot of gold currently, potentially going for that Radiance. at this point, it's kind of an all-or-nothing item. If you go for it, it's probably too late, but if you don't go for it, what are you going to be doing in the team fights anyway? So I'm not sure if I like this choice, but I think it's more or less mandatory. Tier 1 tower in mid is going to be defended by the Tree and Protector. They just aren't able to commit for this. They've tried time and time again for these Tier 1 towers, but all of them stand with relatively high HP. In fact, most of them 100% topped off after the tree drops a couple of heals. It's not looking great. The Spectre's gotten a little bit of room to farm. Now our CS is looking respectable at 84, 85, 86 now, up in the top lane. It's still not enough to really be effective. It's still going to be about 2,500 gold that the Spectre's behind the Clinks. So in that sense, the Midas doesn't actually matter on the Clinks. His game impact's still higher. They are going to rotate some heroes up in top as they've dropped the Spectre down towards bottom. Excalibur is currently the sink that they're pooling all of their resources into. Will he be able to do enough with it? I don't think so, but it might change. Droll in mid, going to start working onto the Wisp. He's going to be able to tether his way back to the creep wave. Get a heal from Chipsag, and he's going to be fine.
Well, this is the benefit. They do at least have some sustain with these pushes between the Wisp and the Dazzle. They can keep a team healed up, but the damage potential of Denial is all very upfront, very bursty, and you can see that in effect when they lose the Spectre. The Funzy's Pugna are just doing far too much this early into the game, and Chips Agent, he's equally going to get caught, grabbed, dragged back. There's no escape from this. Just gets completely obliterated before even the lasso ended. Yeah. Fully upfront loaded damage. Very nasty to deal with.
It really is. That's going to be 400 gold lost by the Spectre in that death, and when you're saving up for a relic, that's huge. I was keeping my eyes on the Batrider's haste rune. He wasn't able to use it until the end of that fight. I don't know. It doesn't matter. The tier 2 tower is going to fall to the strafe, the Pugna Blast. There's too much pushing power coming out from Denial. It's not a quote-unquote pushing lineup, but it definitely does the job if they're able to get the pickoffs with the bat, and they're definitely able to do so. Potentially looking for a jump on an is. They don't have enough really left in the tank in order to do so. The tier 2 tower is going to be standing for now, but they don't have the Tree Protector on the Radiant team. That damage is going to be permanent.
Well, you consider how Denial are playing. They're fighting, getting a pick, getting an objective. Wash, rinse, and repeat. They are just playing it as they need to. Denial have a distinct advantage, and they are running with it. If we look at the graphs quickly, it's a 10,000 gold lead at 21 minutes. Experience-wise, very much the same. Nearly 11,000 at 21 minutes. This is very, very good, gradual play coming from Denial.
Yeah, it definitely is. 2,000 gold on the Clinks. I'm not sure where his item build is going to go from here. It might be a little bit late for the Orchid, but I still think it's a valuable investment. Always making sure you have the mana, despite already having the Soul Ring in order to fill that. The Orchid's just going to offer a lot more damage, as well as making sure that these defensive tools don't come out. Silencing the Wisp so he's not able to tether relocate, or silencing Dazzle so there's no grave, silencing the Shadow Demon so there's no disruption. Any one of those heroes is going to make it a lot harder for hehe to keep their heroes alive, and if they can't do that, their towers are soon to fall.
Well, we do get another scrap going down near the Roshan pit. Funzy, he's going to be the target here, but they just do so much damage in return. They managed to bring down the Shadow Demon, but in comes the Spectre with that Haunt. But there is no damage, there is no Radiance. There is just nothing at the minute they can do. The Spectre has no items, effectively. He's got 3,200 gold, but no Radiance up, no Diffusal, no nothing. It's a very unpleasant scenario for Excalibur to be in, and he needs to farm and remedy this, but the pressure Denial are applying is across all lanes, across all possible avenues of farm. And you consider also the enemy jungle. It's warded up. If he tries to farm the hard camp, it's going to be seen. Then we get the rotation in from the Clinks, and he's going to most likely be going for that Orchid next, I think. If there's an Orchid on the Spectre, there is no avenue for escape possible at all.
Yeah, it's not very comfortable for hehe at all. Right now, the Clinks is a menace even without the Orchid, and you just add that extra damage, it's going to be pretty scary. He's going to bump into Excalibur. Yet again, we're going to see a defensive relocate coming from the Wisp just to heal himself back up in base. Droll shows in lane and might be in a little bit of trouble, but I think he's completely safe, and yeah, he is. He has a Blink Dagger. There's no way that they can actually catch him up. Yeah. I've pretty much given up all hope that we're going to see an aggressive relocate. There's just nobody that benefits from it on the side of hehe. We thought about maybe a Venomancer jumping on somebody with dropping a Gale as well as the Venomancer ulti to do some decent damage, but then they'd also need to commit the Haunt, and even then it's not a guaranteed pick as Excalibur bumps yet again into draw. If this was an Orchid, it's a pretty straightforward kill on Excalibur, but without it, it's just going to be a little bit of scouting done by our Clinks.
Well, they do see now that Relic. But Batrider, yeah, here he comes looking for Excalibur, and with the Batrider, it's going to be more than enough. There is just no way they can save that Spectre in time. And sure, they didn't deny the Spectre that relic for a little bit, but just a good kill nonetheless. The Radiance isn't online yet, and if they can maintain that level of presence and just keep the Spectre down a little bit longer, it's going to be absolutely golden. We're already at 24 minutes. The effectiveness of that early Radiance has fallen off by a large degree, and I am honestly wondering if we're not going to see just an aggressive play coming out of Denial, force the last few tier 2s, and then maybe high ground before the Radiance on the Spectre can pay off at all.
Yeah, I don't think it is going to pay off at all. Really, Spectre isn't that scary until you get an item on top of the Radiance. The Radiance is nice in and of itself. If you get it early enough, the supports are going to die in the duration of your haunt. So, the Skywrath Mage is probably going to fall pretty darn low from that, but as long as there's any sustain, it's not going to be a pretty picture for Hehe. Spectre is a hero that's kind of designed to 1v5 the enemy team once you're 6 slotted. One item's not going to do it for them. It is going to be the go coming out from Chip Sagan. The Relic is on Spectre, so not all hope is lost, but there's hardly a cent of gold on top of that. 25 gold, negligible. The Spectre lost 329 gold from that last death, even though she'd already bought the Relic. It's really painful to watch Excalibur farm as the Dazzle's gone on. He does have the Grave to keep himself alive, but that's a Treant Protector as well as the Pugna. They are trying to get Chip Sagan out alive. He heals. He's sustaining pretty well with the double heal coming out from the Wisp. They jump in with Venomancer ulti onto Mad as the TP away from Funzy. Will be able to make it barely, however. The burst damage almost enough. Losing your tree isn't the most of commitments. The double heal coming out from the IO mechanism as well as the Dazzle Weave is going to be nice, and, well, we have a Treant Protector Aghanims. We were thinking about it. I was trying to figure out what that glowing tree was doing. Yeah, there's your eyes in the forest. It is spotted out by a Radiant Sentry Ward, although they don't have a way to destroy the tree right now. No Quelling Blade or Tangos. Tether, however, could do it.
I was looking forward to seeing this in at least one pro game, and Denial deliver. Thank you, boys.
Yep. The Tether can break those trees, so I think Hehe are going to go about doing that eventually. But they know that their jungle is not safe. You can have infinite number of these little trees outside. As long as they're off cooldown, they last forever until you get them destroyed one way or another. So, I don't know. I love the Aghanims upgrade. It's a lot of fun to see.
Well, it's a good one. It brings back, as I said in the draft, one of the oldest abilities in the entire game. Eyes of the Forest was one of Treant Protector's original skills. It would give good vision across the map and would be heavily abusable since it was available as early level 1, but now it's back in the Aghanims form, and I've got to say, it's good to have it back. Good to see one of the oldest abilities back in the game.
Batrider on a hunting mission through the enemy jungle. They did smoke up for this, but weren't able to find any pickoffs. Excalibur is still desperately farming up for his Aghanims. Dazzle going to be sending himself a Quelling Blade to destroy those trees. So finally they have a little hatchet in order to take away those eyes in the forest, but I think Mad's going to be dropping those around the map, and it's going to be hard for the Dazzle to actually find those without having sentries everywhere or a gem on their team. And if they have a gem, it's probably going to be picked up by Jarl anyway. His item choice, in fact, is not going to be an Orchid, potentially looking for an Eye of Skadi next.
Well, if we go straight for an Eye of Skadi onto the Clinks, that's in some ways a ballsy move, but what else could this honestly be? I mean, a Sheep Stick is an okay item on the Clinks. It would also bring a heavy CC that would take out the Shadow Demon or the Dazzle. I mean, if it is a straight Skadi, it's a very, I'm going to use the word interesting decision, considering it's not the damage or the slow they need, it's some form of silence or CC effect that takes away the Shadow Demon or with the Disruption or the Dazzle with the Shallow Grave. I mean, those are the things that I would address first if this were me. But
yeah, personally, I'd love to see the Hex on the Clinks. With the Blink Dagger already, the Blink Hex initiation is there, and then just pop Strafe and you're searing arrows, and they're dead. Kind of akin to seeing a Scythe on a Meepo or Ursa. You already have the damage, so you don't really need anything but the lockdown. I think it's going to be a Skadi, but I'm kind of hoping for Hex.
Mathematically, my brain says, yeah, this is a Hex. It makes logical sense, and that's the best form of sense in my mind. If it's right logically, then it's right with me. But what can they benefit with this Skadi here? I mean, the slow is nice, the attack speed reduction is nice, but I just don't think that's the right call, personally.
Down at bottom, Droll is getting eyes onto Excalibur. He doesn't have a lot of backoff. He does have Mad, however, and they're going to unload onto Excalibur. He's going to be Overgrowth as well, but the Blink Away already comes from the Clinks, and in the meantime, they blow up the Wisp in mid. They're able to get the lasso off. They kill a Necronomicon Warrior and take some damage there, but it's still a pick-off going the way of hehe, despite not exactly where I thought it would be.
Oh, while this is going on, we do still have the Dazzle just walking around trying to kill as many Eyes of the Forest as we can. He's got 2 of them now, but it is only a 55-second cooldown, and, well, effing Mad has already got a 3rd one up, so that's at least going to provide a good amount of vision, especially if they want to keep vision on Excalibur here and keep an eye on how much he's farming, considering he's only 300 gold away from, say, his Radiance, but as we both agree, he needs more. And there's our Scythe of Vice, so we're looking for the ability to kill Excalibur right now. I think this is going to be a pretty clean-cut kill if Excalibur hangs around. I mean, he must honestly know something is a little amiss. And he does have some support rotation coming in from Chipsation, but I don't think it's going to be a kill. They saw the Clinks with the Sentry Ward that was used to kill the Eyes of the Forest, and it should all be good here.
Yeah, it's also going to give away that they have the Scythe on the Clinks, and even if that doesn't net them a kill down up top, it's still going to put the Fear of God in them. If they're anywhere on this map, the Clinks can just blink on top of them, and there's nothing that they can do. Spectre is going to drop down and farm bottom, but there's a Batrider there. Lasso is available, and if they bring in anybody else, it's going to be a dead Spectre if he farms anywhere further than where this creep wave is currently.
Well, farming like that, I'm unsure if it's wise. As you mentioned, Batrider's presence, there is, of course, the ability to rotate coming in from the Clinks. I wouldn't be surprised for Clinks to get some travels next, personally, just so he can be anywhere and kill anything, especially with the Batrider. What other options are there, in all honesty, for the lineup of Denial? What is their next target? What is their next objective? Because to me, it feels like, let's kill Excalibur, then let's get a tier 2.
Yeah. Let's kill Excalibur, let's get a tier 2. Let's kill Excalibur, let's get Roshan, then let's get high ground. I think it's just going to be a pretty straight checklist coming out from Denial to go down all of those objectives and then push it. Honestly, if they get the kill on Excalibur or get an Aegis on themselves, they could probably take high ground fairly effectively. It's going to be annoying pushing into those Venomancer wards as well as Excalibur's Haunt, but that's about all that he have, and they can sustain pretty well through that. Pugna with a BKB mechanism as well. To keep his team alive, there's just not a lot that he can do. It's Denial's map.
And it will be up to he to try to take a fight maybe at the high ground, try to turn it around, but you've still got a very squishy lineup from hehe United. I mean, let's just look at this from a analytical point of view for a second. Shadow Demon, 853 health. Over on the Dazzle, 891 health. We're seeing a bit of a trend here. The Venomancer, sure, 1,252. And then you've got, of course, Spectre, who is a little bit tanky. He has those points coming up in Dispersion now, as well as 1,100 health. But then over on the Wisp, he's a core Wisp, has 1,200 health, but all of these heroes are relatively either low armor or fairly squishy. And I mean low armor innately, not before, say, adding a Mechanism's Aura or such. It's an easy one for Denial to come in and just brute force, because if you think about it this way, Pugna, large amounts of magical damage across the board. You've got the physical damage of the Treant as well as the control of Overgrowth. You've got the Clinks, and, well, we all know what Clinks can do with that Hex as well. And then, on top of all of this, there's Mystic Flare to consider. And we haven't really talked much about the Skywrath in this case. An extra silence on the table has a Staff of Wizardry in the stash, so I'm thinking Rod of Atos. An extra slow, more ability for the Clinks to keep up on target, and to keep a target within the Mystic Flare.
Yeah.
I'm still saying Denial's map heavily. I'm just hoping, touch wood, that we get a reconnect coming through from that Treant Protector.
Honestly, Treant Protector is one of the least important heroes on the side of Denial. You can pretty much micro him pretty effectively, just giving the living armor and the Eyes in the Forest. That's really what he's there for. Overgrowth is nice, but without a Blink Dagger or Force Staff to set up on his person, maybe he gets forced in by the bat. It's not the most reliable, and they can definitely play without the tree, although they're definitely not going to want to. If it push comes to shove, they definitely could. Let's see. We're going to see Chipstation getting a Bounty Rune up in top. Very limited impact on this game at all. Yeah, right now there's not really a place where we're going to see a jump. Shadow Demon shouldn't walk much further than he is now. They do know that there is a Sentry Ward here. Eventually he's going to be spotted out by this Observer on the high ground. In fact, very shortly, I think the vision of that one extends to right about there. Actually, I can't draw during the pause, but just before the tier 2 tower in the circle. It is nighttime, so maybe a little bit less, but Shadow Demon needs to be careful, although he might not know that there's enemies close, or at least a Treant Protector is as close as he is.
Well, this is, while we've got this pause, we may as well just discuss a couple of the changes. I mean, what do you think the Bounty Rune has really had an impact with, considering, since we've seen it added to the game in 8.2, has that nice little bonus for the support should they pick it up? How do you think it's had an impact?
Honestly, I think the biggest impact is for mid players as well as roaming supports. Getting an early bottle and always having that, if you have the rune control, making sure that you get that bottle refilled is very important. The extra gold is nice for supports in the later portions of the game. Earlier on, it can push you over the threshold for a key level before a gank, but I think really it's all about bottles. Despite bottles getting extra 50 gold in order to purchase it, the item just feels so strong right now.
I'll agree to that. I do like the more ganking that it encourages. I mean, you know me, I love fights. The more fights I see, the better. I mean, there's a reason I like casting. I just get to see some of the most fight-intensive games, so it's quite nice to have. But just having the extra rune, having the extra bottle refill you mentioned, just being able to rotate with, say, the Mirana roaming support that we used to see, or, say, support Earthshaker with a bottle, who can then just spam that Fissure oh so much more. I mean, we all know Earthshaker to be a very heavy defensive support, but he can roam fairly well. I mean, I think back to Dota 1, there was a time when we would see roaming ES at least fairly commonly, and I do like my Earthshaker play. It's one of my favorite heroes. Hell, it's one of yours as well, considering your avatar everywhere is a bloody Earthshaker. But
yeah, he's a wonderful hero. Hardly ever bad. Fissure's an amazing spell. And roaming, you can play defensively. He's very hard to shut down. I don't know. He was the first hero that I played in Dota that I actually learned the game on. So this is why he holds a special place in my heart.
He's one of my favorites, but my first hero that I played was Shadow Shaman. It was a nightmare of a game that I recall. I remember playing so badly. With any luck, though, we'll get that reconnect soon, and we'll get this back underway. But I guess for anyone that has the chat open on ESFX, feel free to ask us some questions during this downtime. We may as well talk about something while we've got this gap. There is a bit of a delay between us and you guys, but if this is a longer pause, give us something to discuss. Give us your opinions.
Yeah, that would be wonderful. Pauses are one of the worst things to deal with when you're casting, especially when you don't really know how long it's going to last. If they told us 10 minutes, hey, we can, I don't know, just chill and play some music or something. But yeah, not a whole lot to discuss right now. The stream is currently not being shown on Dota 2 Lounge. It's not showing up under the list, so hopefully everybody can find this here properly and the stream is not lagging or anything like that. If it is, I'm sorry, there's very little I can actually do about that. I'm very new to this streaming service, and if it is, it's probably a server-side issue that we have no control over.
We've been casting on Twitch. Well, I've been casting on Twitch for about 2 years. You've been going a fairly long time as well, if I recall. It's
yeah, about a year.
It's odd getting used to a new platform. I will say that much. It was honestly, I remember when I first started casting on Twitch, it was an absolute nightmare sorting my my rig to be able to handle that. But with experience, I suppose we've both improved.
Yeah. Well, Treant is currently lodged inside a corner. Right now we're just going through the beautiful showcase view of all of these heroes and what that actually does. Right now there's not very much exciting happening. We're still waiting on that Radiance to come out in the Spectre. It's going to be a pretty darn late one on Excalibur. The farming power of Radiance really isn't going to show this game. He just doesn't have the map control in order to utilize it that way. Maybe they're going to be able to win some fights, however, with it. The extra 50 damage per second on the likes of Pugna or on the Skywrath Mage could be pretty important, as long as the BKB's down for the Pugna. If it's up, Excalibur can do nothing.
Yeah, I'll say that much. If it is up, Excalibur's going to have a very rough time. And we know how powerful that Pugna is, considering. And honestly, the 6.82 changes to Pugna. What's your opinion about being able to heal allies?
I haven't
with
seen...
a Wisp as well, if you've seen that combination.
Yeah. I haven't seen it really have a big impact. It's A good change. I've seen it in a couple of pubs where you like have Pugna and Legion Commander and you just heal the Legion while you're dueling. It's a nice change. I'm not sure it really changes much, although with an Aghanim Scepter it can be impactful and there's some clutch plays that you can do with it. It's not a huge buff, especially considering the changes to towers and whatnot. I think that's going to hurt Pugna more than the healing on his ultimate's going to help. I'd love to see it be impactful, maybe saving the Clinks while he's getting low, but honestly, I don't think the Clinks is going to be put in a position where that's going to be important.
Not necessarily in this game, but on the whole, I was on about. How do you think we're going to see much of an impact with that one? It's a hard call, isn't it?
Yeah, it really is. I think we're going to see a couple of highlight reels where you have a Pugna healing while somebody goes completely ham and just some amazing plays there. Maybe denying yourself with the heal coming out from the life drain on a creep or something in the nick of time. I'm pretty sure that denies you, actually. I haven't actually tested that out. It's a fairly recent change. Either way, Ready is going to come out from both of the teams, and we actually get into the true game.
Yep, well, we're back underway, so let's see what these teams can show us. But with the Pugna, I got to say, the potential with a couple of the highlight reels that we could see is going to be quite nice. And now we get that Hex. They're going to look to try to bring down Chip Sajin, but the Kun does manage to get off a defensive disruption and save him from this potential attempt. But from where we sit, the Radiance is now online for Excalibur. Is it too late, though? We're at 29 minutes near enough. 29-minute Radiance. It feels very late. It's been heavily delayed by factors of ganking, being outpushed, being have to rotate lanes away just to farm safely.
Yeah, it feels too late.
From where we sit, it's going to take Excalibur most likely 3 minutes or so, maybe 4 minutes to get that Yasha, and then maybe look for something else on top of this. But going straight for a Yasha after this, that's not going to help out much in terms of survivability for the Spectre. The extra move speed will be nice, but is that the right call? I mean, what do you think we should see next on this Spectre regarding this game?
I'd love to see the Mantis style. The Spectre just needs more. I'm not sure it matters what the next item is going to be. It's going to matter once Spectre hits critical mass and gets like 4 items up. It's not a happy place for Excalibur. Yes, the casual Yasha isn't going to be the greatest item on its own, but I think it's in the right direction. If you're not going to go for the Yasha into the Mantis style, go for Reaver into Heart.
Reaver into Heart? Yeah, I could understand that one, but part of me wants to say BKB would be a very good choice for Excalibur here, considering the Mystic Flare. You've also got Overgrowth, being able to get out of that, the damage of the Pugna. But if you go for, as Excalibur gets himself stuck in the trees, shenanigans happen. If you go for, say, a BKB, you're not really going to be able to evolve much in terms of damage. You gain a little bit more survivability, but the damage on Denial is scaling so well in this game. I'm unsure if even a BKB would be a right choice.
Yeah, BKB, if he goes for the item, he's just going to be ripped apart by Drell. Really, at this point in the game, he needs like a Manta Heart and Butterfly to really have an impact at all. And even then, maybe another damage item on top of it, the likes of an Abyssal. Bar that... He just needs too much. The Roshan's going to go in the favor of Denial, and with a second life, presumably on their Clinks, they can go for high ground at this point. Just go down mid, and if they win a fight beforehand, and they're going to find out the Wisp. Without the Wisp, that's a lot of their defensive capabilities down the drain. Spectre Haunt already used, and not getting any kills off of that is going to mean that Hehe have very little ability to fight. Now they find themselves in Chip Sagan. They do not have the lasso available, and he's just going to pop the BKB, looking for the Flame Break, bounces HW back. But there's nothing else to chase them down. 4-step forward on the bat doesn't do much. But still, it's going to be 2 major tools from Hehe down the drain, at least for 24 seconds until the IO comes back. Luckily enough for them, the IO is not very high level as far as a core hero is concerned, and will be back up before the high ground push comes.
Well, that entire series of events came about just because the Batrider got himself a haste rune. Best rune ever on the Batrider. Just being able to come in, grab the IO, and get the hell out of dodge. But now the tier 2 push coming through from Denial. We are looking for some form of defense from Hehe, but what can they really do to hold this? I don't think they can. I think they're going to have to concede this tower and maybe fight at the high ground. I mean, the high ground could give them the little edge they need, but what do we have that can really stand against Denial? I mean, I'm going to take a quick look around, and I see a Veil as well as the Nova available for the Venomancer, and that might be their engine for turning this battle around, but Chip Saden will go down. Far too much damage there, as well as the Ancient Seal Arcane Bolt into the Shadow Demon. They just cannot hold. And 2 easy kills for Denial. They use the Poison over. It doesn't connect on anyone. Now Funzy force back, and I'm just looking for a re-engage, personally. I mean, you've got the lasso, it's down for 40 seconds now, but if they can pick off either Nihis or HWA at this point, it could be a tier 3 attempt coming up. But it seems everyone just wants to back off and just refill their health and mana, get back in the fight, and then just reset and go again.
Yeah, the Batrider was completely tapped out of mana. The Scarth Mage not looking too great in that department either. They didn't really have a lot to keep on going. Haunt is going to be back up for this fight, and the last Haunt we saw did some decent damage to Denial. All said and done, it probably would have killed a hero. It's probably like 1/5 damage on average per person. It's not enough, however. They did burst down Funzy pretty darn low with the burst damage coming out from the Dazzle as well as the Shadow Demon, but at this point in the game, that doesn't matter much. The armor's starting to come out for these heroes. Not necessarily for the Scarth Mage, he's pretty darn squishy in that respect, but with the Mechanism on the Pug now, that's 10 armor, 9, or 10 also onto Dural. It's enough to stop the damage really coming through, or at least enough damage. Now Clinks with a Crystallis. Dural is going to be even scarier than he was, and once we have the Daedalus finished up on him, nobody on hehe is going to survive, and he's going to be 1 to 3 shotting heroes, depending on who he finds.
Well, we're going to go straight onto Nihis. There's going to be no escape from that one. He did manage to cancel the TP with that Scythe of Ice, and they do catch Chip Sagen as well with the Lasso, so they're going to easily be able to finish off the Dazzle, but now they're going to go for HWA. They do have effing Mad going aggressive. He does have the overgrowth, and this is going to absolutely be a disaster for He United. The Mystic Flare comes in as well. HWA did get protected by a defensive disruption, but they lost the Shadow Demon. And all it will take is a few more right clicks onto HWA, but on the back lines of this fight, they do have Nihis trying to come in with a BKB, but it doesn't matter. Funzy is there. He's just standing and tanking up everything. Chip Sagen is slowly just going down. You've got the damage coming through from Excalibur finally, but 4 stuff out, not going to be enough. Excalibur on the triple kill, actually. And now we're just looking for Jor-El to really try to get some damage out. But effing Mad does get caught under a sentry, and this has just been a complete turnaround. It's a 4 for 2 at the end of the engagement, and Denial. Bit of a misplay from that one.
Just a little bit, if you look at that fight recap, the gold swing is going to be almost 5,000, and you can chalk that up to the changes that we've seen in 6.82b. The comeback is still real. The idea for them is to keep that Spectre alive, and suddenly 4,000 gold in the Spectre, it's not looking too bad. She's still 2,000 gold behind the Clinks, but if they're able to just sustain Excalibur through the fights, the sustained damage that you get from the damage that they're trying to do to the Spectre from Dispersion, as well as from the Radiance Burn and just the Desolate auto attacks, it's more significant than I thought it would be. I don't know. Hehe, where was this a couple of minutes ago? If they could do this amount of damage, why didn't they try earlier?
Honestly, I think they were just waiting for the Spectre to get the Radiance and get a little more online, but now we've got a Yasha for Excalibur, and a Ultimate Orb, hell, a full Manta flying out for Excalibur. So that's the second item online. He's going to start becoming more threatening, and you said earlier in the game, earlier in the draft actually, that this wasn't the traditional 4 Protect 1. I think this is the 4 Heal 1 strategy instead.
Yeah, I think that's fair. The Venomancer's the only one that's not doing the healing, but he's still offering a little bit of ways to keep the Spectre alive by slowing other heroes. As the Shadow Demon gets caught out on top, he's silenced up, but with the IO keeping him in place, he's going to be living not for long. The Wraith's going to keep him alive, but now they work on into his. The Relocate's going to keep him safe. They get the lasso off on HWA. HWA is going to fall. The Spectre's back in here, trying to go down for this Gyroth Mage. That's a dominating spree for Excalibur. Excalibur is on the sidelines, doing some burn damage as they try to chase him down. They don't have a lasso. The Life Drain comes out into Excalibur, taking decent damage, but now with the Wisp healing him up, the double heals coming out from the Dazzle, Excalibur's back into fighting shape. Unfortunately for him, his turn rate is completely awful with 5 stacks of Sticky Napalm. They jump forward with Jor-El, but Jor-El's now in a very difficult situation. He is going to be healed up by the living armor of the Treant Protector. Mechanism comes out into his, as well as Excalibur. They pop the dust. They're going to be able to get a disruption off onto Paris, but they don't have the follow-up damage. They're not focusing him down. The ward is going to be dropped down by the Pugna. They're just sustaining through the entirety of this. Hehe, TP away from effing Mad. He's going to be able to get out of there. Spectral Dagger flies through the trees. Nobody else is going to die unless Jor-El gets spotted. He isn't going to get spotted, at least for now. Not Invis, but he's just on the outskirts of their vision. The Tier 1 tower finally going to fall up in top. Hehe are getting something now, and Excalibur after this fight is going to be well on his way towards his next big item. Despite not getting a convincing gold lead in the fight proper, just a 1-for-1 trade, this tower going after the fact is going to be pretty huge for them.
Indeed it will be, and you've still got Jor-El sneaking about as well on the flip side of this coin in favor of Denial. If he can pick off, say, Nihis or Chip Sagen is the easier target. Going to go on him now, but the Coon, is he going to get that defensive disruption off in time? No, he isn't. They'll clean up the Dazzle. Now they're going to look for the Shadow Demon. Defensive disruption is there on him, but it doesn't matter. It's a double kill for Jor-El. That crit is online, and it's a full Daedalus as well, so He hits pretty damn hard.
Yeah, that's pretty fair. Klink's very deep in enemy lines, isn't going to find anybody else unless the Batrider is unlucky enough to walk into those eyes in the forest. Either way, the Spectre leaving her team, without the Spectre, he can do nothing, and that's kind of what we just saw. The Klinks is going to, I believe, kill a Necronomicon Warrior in mid. That's how he took that damage. 2,000 gold on the Klinks. He's getting closer towards his next item. This game is so topsy-turvy. If we take a look at the gold graphs, the bleeding has been stemmed by hehe. It's pretty much been a flatline graph at 15,000 advantage, which by no means is good for hehe, but it's a step in the right direction.
You say they stemmed the bleeding. They stopped the bleeding at the point where they were about to bleed out.
Yes.
That was quite the close turnaround. And honestly, I was waiting for hehe just to be able to turn around and show us something. I mean, they were on the back foot the entire early game, and now the Spectre has got some items starting to come into her own. Hehe do have a chance in this one. I'm not going to count them out. We were saying that it could have been fully Denial's way, but that one wrong team fight, it is the new style of Dota. One wrong mistake, one bad team fight, you will be punished so damn heavily.
Yeah, just imagine if this was the first iteration of 6.82. If that had been that fight then, Spectre would be looking at a butterfly and well on her way towards her next item in that fight because of the 15,000 advantage, as well as the heroes that they killed just being so loaded. Either way, this game's a lot closer, and I think those changes are quite a bit more balanced right now. But still, you're a Spectre that could get another big damage item. Maybe just go on your way towards the butterfly, I think is probably your best bet. It's going to tank you up a decent amount up against the Klinks. Heck, maybe even go towards the hard or even more damage on top of it. Whatever Excalibur builds, it's going to be big, and it's going to have an impact in the team fights. Right now, I don't feel he needs a lot more sustain because of the amount of heals that are on his team. But if he feels differently, he could be just going for a straight-up tank. Aghanim Scepter...
I would say straight up heart, actually. Okay. Straight up heart, because you can only do as much damage with Dispersion as your HP. It's a flat equation. I believe the Dispersion amount is damage reflected up to 22%, so the more health you've got, the more percentage you can work with in terms of Dispersion. So that's going to help not only deal damage, but survive. And Excalibur is going to start taking some good harassment damage from Jor-El, but can't finish him off in time. And he actually did go for the Diffusal instead, so...
Yeah, not a huge fan of the Diffusal Blade. I was hoping for something a little bit more hard-hitting. Eventually, the Diffusal Blade's going to be pretty irrelevant. There's not anything great to purge off, with the exception being Scythe coming out from the Klinks. That's a pretty solid spell to take off of yourself. Or take off of an ally, rather. But it's not going to help the Spectre if she's the one getting hexed. Still, if you're able to unpig the Dazzle and make sure you have that Shallow Grave, or get the Defensive Disruption off, it could be pretty important, although the extra damage from the Agility as well as the Mana Burn is going to be pretty solid on these supports, and Skywrath Mage might just die in the duration of an ultimate. Only 910 HP and 2 armor on Sky.
But one other thing I'll point out here, Denial did just finish off the last Tier 2 tower on hehe's side of the map, so all out to Tier towers down now. We're looking for that next big fight. We're looking for the Tier 3. But I'm wondering if Roshan isn't going to be the deciding factor before they go high ground. He's going to be online in just over a minute, so that could be the next target, the next order of business.
BKB now in the Klinks as they drop the Spectre ultimate. As they smoked up, they're going to be able to jump into this fight as Spectre does reality in. Not doing enough damage, but Cryo J is more or less completely dead. The Flame Break is going to delay things, but the right clicks as well as the burn is going to be enough. Spectre Haunt to scout out a gank as well as to kill one of the enemy heroes. It's okay. It's not great. Roshan's not available for hehe, which is unfortunate for them. They might have been able to take it, but with the BKB now on your Klinks, it's flying out to himself on the courier. It would be pretty risky as well. Jor-El's getting pretty close to being 6-slotted. His impact isn't really going to be much greater than this. Potentially we'll see him get a unique attack modifier to replace that Midas, but I think it's just going to be an MKB as his last item.
I think an MKB would be the most reasonable choice. I mean, there is that potential threat of a Butterfly and Excalibur. That's more than enough reason to get an MKB, as we do get another pause, unfortunately. We seem to have game of pauses going on here, but nonetheless, it's hopefully going to stop when we come up to Game 2. This is, of course, a best of 3, ladies and gentlemen, so these teams will be at it again. Hopefully with less pauses. I know we all hate the pauses, but they are a unfortunate part of the game right now.
Shadow Demon currently the saddest pig I've ever seen. He's on 34 HP, and he's going to be turned into bacon very soon, as another Searing Arrow is going to land onto him.
Hey, Shadow Demon Bacon Kebab, what more do you want?
Well, he actually is being graved up by Dazzle. He's currently in that animation. It's going to drop on him immediately as the game unpauses, so the pig's life is going to be extended for a little bit longer, but I think it's only going to be just. Let's see. There is a relocate coming down from the south from the Wisp. If they want to use it to save the Shadow Demon, they might just let him die, however. Let's see. Jral
he doesn't need to relocate that. That's in range from to tether.
Oh, let's see. He might have to relocate him back to base and then tether.
That actually could work there. But he actually already has the Shallow Grave effect on him if you check out the Coon. The animation, it's a very short one. I mean, straight into the Shallow Grave, as well as the Weave. Not going to be able to pursue the kill, but the Coon will survive this one. It is, I suppose, the nice benefit here for Hehe United. They do have that medic build, the defensive support variety. And honestly, the only thing that I think would add even more to the healing would say have a Necrolite. And I'm hoping to honestly see some Necrolite in this patch, considering the nice buff he got. It's now a guaranteed 30 seconds added to the respawn time. Imagine that at level 6.
Honestly, I would have loved to see Necrolite in place of the Venomancer. I think it would have done more for them, to be honest. Let's see. They're currently spotted out. They're going to throw a concussive shot the way of the Coon, but there's not going to be any follow-up for that. Right now, it's just an awkward standoff, and that's going to be broken as they blink in. They get a Hex off. On to nothing. Now they go into Chip's Egg, and he is currently a pig as the BKB and the Bat Rider is going to be used. Spectre's going to be man-fighting, but with the BKB on Jral doing very little damage. The illusions coming out from the Shadow Demon onto the Spectre are going to be nice and will chase Denial away for now. Nobody's dying. That might change with Funzy being pursued. They don't have the Spectre here, so the damage is fairly limited. Funzy turns around to SBKB. Now going to go for the Life Drain onto HWA. Force Staff's going to get him up to the high ground, keep him safe. The Skywrath Mage Force Staffed away as well, as everybody's just kiting around the Spectre. They're trying to keep Excalibur's arm length. Jral working on his as well as the Venomancer. Dazzle is... yeah, going to be completely fine as Jiral's being focused down by the Spectre on the sidelines. No BKB now. He might be in a lot of trouble as Excalibur is chasing him pretty darn fast. They're looking for just a little bit more to bridge the gap. The Wisp Orbs are going to land onto him. Do they have enough damage? They need 2 more bounces. Not going to find it, and Jiral is too fast with the Skeleton Walk and the Blink Dagger, and Jiral escapes within 50 hit points of his life. Only 1 death in that entire fight. So much kiting being used by either team. The Force Staff usage is 4 on the Radiant side and 6 on the side of Denial. A crazy fight that doesn't really swing in the favor of either side. Slight win for Hehe.
Very slight, but all that time where they're just chasing and fighting, they're not farming, so it's a hard one to call. But one thing that I do like from Denial there, they were treating Excalibur with the respect he deserves. Keep him at arm's length. Keep him kited. If he can't right-click, he takes away a lot of the damage of the Spectre. I mean, he doesn't gain anything from his Desolate if he can't right-click. It's absolutely perfect. It's just like with an Ursa. Keep it at arm's length. Don't let it get near you. There's only so much damage a Radiance can do on its own. And I'm honestly surprised we didn't see an earlier Haunt in that one. Be able to get on to say that that Pugna before he could escape this. But it's a close one. A very close one. Hard one to call, that fight.
Still, the advantage is about 15,000 in favor of Denial, and experience almost at that same mark. The graph is actually a little bit misleading since we did have a fairly elongated pause throughout most of that, although it just kind of drops down and then flatlines at 15,000. They haven't been able to make much more of a lead. This Roshan might help them get towards that next objective, which is high ground for Denial. Hunt is going to be up in 11 seconds. It is going to be Klunk shipping out his Midas as he's going to be the one to pick up this Aegis. Klunk does a whole lot of damage as long as he's able to stick on the target, similar to the Spectre, although not to the same extent. We aren't going to see a smoke up coming out from Hehe, but they are currently grouped up, potentially looking for a move like that. Excalibur's farming up the enemy jungle and might be in a little bit of trouble here.
I think he actually might be, especially now he's been scattered out by everything mad. In comes the Bat Rider. This is not where Excalibur wanted to be. If he goes down, this is going to be pretty major. Skywrath is there. They've got the Ancient Seal. You've got Nihis coming in to try to get Excalibur out of there, but they're not going to survive this, I don't think. Excalibur doing everything he possibly can, but one more zap coming through from Funzy's Death Ward. That's going to be enough to clean up that Spectre, but Nihis will manage to at least escape as his relocate times out.
Yeah, I think I would have had a better chance of saving the Spectre if instead of relocating in to try to get the Spectre out, if he boots have traveled in and then went for the relocate. It's still a close call either way. Spectre, fighting for all that she's worth, isn't able to do it. Spectre's next item choice is actually going to be a Refresher. It's going to be nice to have the double haunt. It's going to do a lot of damage to these supports, but honestly, I'm not sure if it's going to be hard-hitting enough. And speaking of hard-hitting, we have Jiral in the enemy jungle, fighting a Chipseg and currently a pig, and no Shallow Grave's going to save you here, but the Wisp might be able to. No, the crits are too much.
the crits combined with the damage of the Orchid, no, not Orchid, there is no Orchid, what am I on about? Doesn't matter. Giral, he's going to get initiated on, does take a large amount of damage to get his TP interrupted, but Paris, BKBs, tries to escape, can't quite do so, I don't think, but actually, might do a good job of this. They're going to turn around, blow up the Coon. They used the lasso there, which I don't think was necessary. Now we've got that overgrowth. It's going to completely airball, doesn't manage to connect to Nihis, and Nihis should be away and safe. And I instinctively thought, oh, there's an Orchid. No, there isn't. Instead, HWA just get worked on, and Giral just does so much in combination with Funzy and that drain life. Now we've got the Haunt. They're going to look to try to get some counter kills with this. I mean, going for Creo, that's quite a nice one, especially if Excalibur comes in. They force the Aegis. They get the Skywrath Mage as a bonus. Now, resurrecting on Giral. Can they get this Clinks a second time? A couple of right clicks will at least stop the Blink Dagger for now, but with that BKB up, no, he's going to be well enough and safe, in my opinion.
Yeah, if they had any vision of him, there was a Demonic Purge and potentially a kill on the Clinks, although if you're diving that hard for the Clinks, he might just turn and kill you. So in the end, it is going to be a win for hehe, although the fight rate cap isn't going to say it is. They still get the Aegis off of the Clinks, and despite you losing a lot of heroes beforehand, that last engagement was in their favor, despite losing a lot before the hunt in from the Spectre.
Well, this is sort of where I'm actually surprised. The fact that this is going so heavily towards the late game, I did not expect a 46-minute game coming out of these lineups. I mean, hehe, they were on the back foot quite heavily. We're at the 46-minute mark. The Spectre is a big problem, especially if he gets this refresher. I mean, double Haunt, you said, is quite nasty. Not only double Haunt. After that, what does he go for? A Heart, possibly, for his 5th slot with Travels?
I'm not even sure if he goes for the Heart. I'd like to see it. I think the extra tank just synergizes very well with Spectre, but honestly, it might just go for straight-up damage. Get an Abyssal Blade, and then you can have double Abyssal inside the team fights. BKB or not, that Clinks is going to die.
Very, very true. I mean, the right-click potential of Excalibur cannot be underestimated. He already hits for 230 a hit. It's going to hurt, and that's before you count the pure damage added of Desolate. That sure doesn't go through Magic Immunity, but if those BKBs aren't online, Excalibur will be able to mince heroes left, right, and center with sheer right-click.
Yeah. Dazzle also has Vladimir's offering for the Spectre, so maybe just getting more damage is going to help her sustain, and even without the Heart, they still have enough ways to heal up the Spectre. Tether her up with the Wisp, adding that overcharged minus damage as well as the extra attack speed, double heal from the Dazzle, double heal from the Mechanism. Spectre is going to be incredibly tanky with or without the raw HP, and Desolate's, or rather Dispersion, is still going to do a lot of damage if they try to consistently focus the Spectre down, and they're just not able to do so. Yeah, it's up to Excalibur's personal preference, I think, whether or not he builds into Heart or more damage.
Well, I'm wondering if it's not just going to be more damage, because he's already fairly tanky. He does have the refresher pretty much complete. He does have a Perseverance on the Courier, so all he needs to do is pick up the recipe. So that's going to give him just over 2,000 health. Does he really need a Heart on top of that, I wonder? But now we're going to see that fight kick off. The Coon taking a large amount of damage again, but does get caught by the Shallow Grave. They use the lasso. Nihis does get caught in quite a bit of trouble here, but Giral just gets sheer right-click damage thrown into him by Excalibur and forced to TP out to escape. Now we're seeing a TP by Paris as well. Do they have a defensive disruption? No. It's going to be a double evacuation from Denial, and they'll lose no one.
Still, they might be able to push in a tier 2 tower this, hehe. Bottom lane is being pushed up by the tree as well as the Skywrath Mage, but that's not incredibly scary. Excalibur had not a fear in the world. He's going to TP back towards mid to pick up some farm there. It's quite a hefty sum. Honestly, they just need a way to cancel his TPs. I'd love to see the Abyssal Blade next for your Spectre.
I'd agree. The Abyssal Blade, the ability just to get that lockdown on heroes is going to be very nice. Mix that in with just the sheer amount of escape play we've seen from Denial, it's the right choice. But the Coon, now in a lot of trouble, will go down this time. Those crits are too high. The Blink Dagger play is there. They're looking for HWA, but the Weave's now thrown, starting to at least tank up HWA a little bit and weaken Jor-Al, but now they're going to look to try to finish him off. Can't quite manage to do so before the TP. Flamebreak, however, will cancel Tip Sargent's TP, and he's going to go down. That's a double kill the way of Jor-Al. A wicked 6 spree as well. This is a scary Clinks.
He's not going to get any more scary, however, unless he decides to replace the Blink Dagger. He's going for a Satanic next, which will make him harder to kill in the teamfights, but right now his damage is capped with the Spectre. Getting jumped on in bottom lane, however, the relocate in, they're going to be able to make a turn potentially. Four Staffs will keep them safe, as Cryojet as well as Funzy are going to be able to make it back into their side of the map. They're going to be fine. Excalibur Refresher is online. He's going to have double hunt in 20 seconds. With a double hunt, he might be able to take a fight. Clinkz, despite being the scariest hero up until now on the map, that's going to change with Spectre's next item, whatever it may be. Let's see, Draw. He's not going to have the Satanic completed, although he's very soon to have that available to him if he wants to forego buyback, but I think he'll save for buyback before he finishes that up. We'll see. He's going to be munching on those Necronomicon Warriors, as he's done through the majority of this game. It's quite a lot of gold being thrown the way of the Clinkz. 400 from picking off both of those, as well as a lot of HP and damage on top of it.
It's one of the nicest things about Clinkz. If there's a problem with Necrobooks, who'd you call? Clinkz. Or anyone with a Hand of Midas as an innate. But we're at that point where the Hand of Midas just does not matter anymore. So it's the nice hero mechanics. I mean, I do like Clinkz as a hero. I mean, the Bone Fletcher, I'll get there eventually. One of the older heroes around, and it's good to see him get the play he deserves.
Yeah, I think that's fair. Paris was hunting inside the enemy jungle, moving incredibly fast with an S and Y. On top of Boots of Travel, Blink Dagger, Force Staff, an incredibly mobile bat is very scary bat. But unless Drell is there, they can't really go for those kills, and nobody was poking their head too far up. With the Poison Sting on him, he's already moving at 400 movement speed. It's 452, just by default. That's with any actives. Not subscribing to the Mask of Madness build on your Bat Riders. Potentially a Refresher would have been nicer for the Bat instead of going for the Sange and Yasha. I think that would have scaled better with double Lasso, double BKB, as well as double Shivas. But either way, Bat Rider is completely capped out. Despite not having the most net worth, there's not really much he can replace.
The only thing that I would like to see on him, in all honesty, would be a Sheep Stick, but that will be if that BKB is no longer the right choice, and it's already at a 5-second duration on the BKB, so a Sheep Stick could work here. I mean, it would give him a little more right click as well, but most importantly, that Hex effect. I mean, that's extra lockdown on top of the lasso. It's a very nice one. The other option, and this is a very rare occurrence, of course, Refresher Bat Rider. We've seen a couple of double lasso bats in the pro scene in the past. It's incredibly rare, though.
I think it's actually part of the traditional build, although we don't usually see bats getting to there. Usually instead of going for the Shivas, you see that replaced by a Hex, and then your last item is usually the Refresher, to get the double Hex as well as double Lasso, but I'm not sure if he'll go for that with this build. I'd like to see him replace the BKB with a Hex, but still 5 seconds of Magic Immunity is nothing to scoff at, especially when you're dealing with the Spectre. That's the duration of one of the Haunts.
I suppose that's one way to think about it, but this is still an interesting one. As we get to the 52-minute mark, this has gone much, much further than I thought this game possibly would go. And I'm wondering, what is the next goal? What is the next objective for Denial before they try to push again? Because the longer they wait, the more they lose. They're recovering. Their Spectre has got farm. Their supports, as well as the Venomancer, are getting farm. And the Venomancer does have that full Aghanim Scepter now about to fly out to him. So, on top of having his Veil of Discord, he has an Aghanims at Poison Nova level 3. That is going to hurt. 60-second cooldown, 16-second duration at 108 damage a tick. Napkin math alone says that's going to hurt.
Definitely, especially when you factor in the Veil on top of it, maybe even a Curse from the Shadow Demon. It's pretty scary.
That's a big combo for Jural. He gets the immediate double kill. Now Nihis in a lot of trouble. He did relocate in, but he's going to try to TP out. The damage is there. The crits are too high, and that's a triple kill for Jural. They were just waiting for a good pick-off, and they got it off the back of the smoke.
Yeah, it's going to be a huge move for Denial. Spectre survives crucially for them, but used one of her Haunts. Excalibur now is in a bit of a pickle, going to be forced to 1v5 the enemy team without the backup of her 3 Sustainers or Medics. Buyback on the Wisp is going to keep her alive a little bit more, but that's going to completely delay your heart on Nihiz. And now the high ground is going to be pressured by Denial. There's not much else to stop this besides the Glyph. It is going to stop things for a little bit longer. 5 seconds is not going to be enough, however, to completely stymie this push. Although with their supports coming back online in about 5 seconds or so, it's going to be nice to keep Spectre alive. Let's see. I think they're going to
be able to continue. Yeah, they can't risk continuing this. There's just too much ability to turn a fight around for hehe at this point. I mean, it's the unfortunate turn of events is they had an opening, they just couldn't force the tower enough and do enough damage. And even if they did 100% commit to that tower, they would have to fight into a Spectre with Haunt. Not only one Haunt, he's got two. And now he's almost got a heart to boot. In fact, does he have the full heart? He's got the recipe on the courier, and it's about to pick up the Vitality booster. So this Spectre is 110% scary. And now it's a case of blink in from Paris. He's looking for the lasso. Does go into Chip's Agent. The Ion Cannon of the Mystic Flare, more than enough to bring down the Venomancer as well as the Shadow Demon. They get the double kill onto Joral. That's the death of the Dazzle, and now they're chasing. They want Excalibur, but it's a relocate out. They're going to wait potentially for the Wisp, kill off the Wisp, and then maybe look for the high ground. I don't think Roshan's even necessary if they can kill the Wisp here, so it's a nice thing to keep in mind. He's going to be coming back. Can they kill him? That's the question. There is more than enough damage there, and just look at that life drain. Oh, that hurts.
It really does. Spectre survives, but to what end? The single Spectre with no haunts is not actually very scary for Denial. Yeah, they're not even going to bother with Roshan. They don't need to. Up to high ground they go, and this push is probably going to be a lot more successful. 20 seconds. The Venomancer is back online. Should be enough to get one lane of racks. They're going to start healing into a creep that was more or less unnecessary, but Funzy with Axe doesn't actually care. Truth Your Tower is going to fall, and the racks soon to fall after. With Strafe on the Clinks, it's going to melt.
Yeah, there's no way they can hold these racks. With the first set down, first set of racks goes down at 56 minutes. They're going to go for a second. However, the team is almost all back alive with the exception of that Wisp. Can they defend 4v5? That's the question. Paris does come in. Shiva's guard there. He grabs Excalibur. Can they kill Excalibur? I don't think they can. He's going to take too little damage, but they do kill the Venomancer in the meantime. Now they're trying to throw everything they can into Excalibur. The defensive disruption comes through from the Kun, though, but he'll pay for it with his life. Now comes the turnaround. Joral is beyond godlike. Can they finish off Joral? The Satanic is just buying him time. He's going to go down, and that's a huge amount of gold. 905 for the beyond godlike spree, as well as anything else extra on top of that. He's back up to 4,500 gold on Excalibur. They managed to defend the second set, and I think that was just Denial getting a little bit too greedy.
Yeah, they should have backed off after the first set of barracks. I don't like this Diffusal Blade on Excalibur. I think this is the point where it becomes pretty much a dead item in its inventory. Imagine if that Diffusal was the Abyssal Blade we were talking about earlier. Eventually, Excalibur might consider replacing its Radiance as well, but Excalibur, for all intents and purposes, is capped out. Diffusal Blade's probably the next thing for him to replace after he gets Boots of Travel, but still, he find themselves with a new lease on life. At this point, one lane of barracks is not very scary, honestly. 57 minutes in, the Spectre can deal this very easily alone. And we'll find a tier 2 tower in mid if she continues. I don't think that's the right choice, but Excalibur is going to consider it.
If they push straight for this tier 2 and manage to get it, it's going to be an extra objective. But it's a very hard one to stop. Now they're going to come in. Excalibur thinking about it with the lasso from Paris, but doesn't commit to it. Instead, they're just going to life drain from the sidelines. But Excalibur still is just so damn tanky. Now he's being healed. This is going to be incredibly hard to stop. And Funzy could be the victim here. 4-staffs up to the high ground. He's bought enough time. Equally, 4-staff out by Creo, but now we get that turnaround. The overgrowth is there. Can they finish off? No, they can't. Instead, Haunt, and he's just going to go to Creo to get out of that Mystic Flare. And now the turnaround, they're going to turn on Funzy. The BKB, they trying to TP out in time, but there is just so much right-click. He cannot escape. It's a double kill for Excalibur. They killed that tier 2 in the mid lane as well. Now it's going to be the tier 3 mid lane. They want the racks. They want to equalize it. Buyback over from the Pugner. The Clinks is now back alive. 4v5 this time on the other way. Then comes the lasso. They're going to try to kill Excalibur, but the relocate doesn't manage to get Excalibur out there in time. He's taking a huge amount of damage. Paris going to go down potentially to a few more right clicks of this Spectre, though, but Haunt from the Spectre is going to buy him enough time to be able to get out. But the damage from Joral will clean up the Shadow Demon as well as that Venomancer.
Spectre does survive on the backlines, and that's 116 seconds with no Pugna. Excalibur now with 7,600 gold casually in his bank can buy anything. Replace that Diffusal Blade, please, with the likes of a Basher. Maybe just go for the full Super Basher if you can throw buyback to the wind. Honestly, I think you just get some heavy-hitting items for Spectre. As long as he's paired up with that Wisp, he takes hardly any damage. If you look at the damage reduction, it's 20% from Overcharge, another 22% from Dispersion, and then 3,200 HP. Not even considering any heals from the Dazzle as well as the Wisp. That's ridiculous, and we're going to have a full heart on our Wisp. If he's able to stay on the backlines and not take any damage, Spectre's going to be immortal.
Near enough, yes. The thing I'm going to throw out there as well, I say sell the Diffusal, buy a Butterfly. I don't even think the Abyssal Blade is needed. A Butterfly added to all of the illusions, having a heart and the evasion, it would force the Clinks to buy an MKB, and that I don't think is gold that the Clinks has available. Actually, no, he does. He's got 8,000 gold, but what am I on about? Of course he has. Everyone's got loads of gold. 8,300 gold on the Clinks for Dural. MKB seems like the right choice, especially now we see that butterfly picked up. This screams we need an MKB, otherwise Excalibur is just going to wreck face.
Yeah. At this point, I'd consider shipping the Radiance for the Abyssal. I mean, it seems like, I don't know, I'm putting a little too much focus on that item, but honestly, the Radiance isn't doing much for him, and I think getting the upgrade would be nice. We're not going to see that until he has probably 10,000 gold in his bank. Not that much, but 7,000 thereabouts, so he can ensure that he one-shot buys the Abyssal as well as having buyback, but we're getting to that point...
7,000, he won't cut it. The Abyssal costs 6,700.
Yeah, well, you are also selling your Radiance, so that's another 2,000.
Okay, I suppose.
Yeah. It's a lot of gold, regardless.
Well, we're looking for the 7 slot now. The 7 slot, the double courier, the 30 sentry wards. Yes, I'm referring to that game, but... I think we're
you could also like keep your refresher on the courier and just haunt and then switch it out and then haunt again.
Yeah, certainly. I mean, I could believe it. This is the type of game where I could believe it. But I think for the flip side, Denial, they're looking for an MKB, and I mean, there's your MKB. I'm going to utter the mythical words. This is the game where a Divine Rapier might be the thing to kill the Spectre.
Maybe. He's actually going to give up his BKB in replacement for the Monkey King Bar. I would have liked to see him get rid of that Blink Dagger a little bit more, but I don't know. The Blink Hex Initiation is not something to... I'll be afraid of. Blink Initiation is going to go the way of his, but the instant Haunt is going to come through. The Defensive Disruption is going to keep the Dazzle alive for a little bit longer. Excuse me, the Wisp. Also the heals. The Shadow Demon's not going to be so lucky. The crits aren't coming out for Jiral's on the backline. Spectre is starting to wreak a lot of havoc with the second Haunt now doing a whole lot of damage. Jiral's being focused down. He does have the Satanic to sustain. Excalibur's going to Manta out of the life drain. Now Jiral being focused down. Jiral's falling. Jiral to fall. He's going to die. Cryo J now being focused down by Excalibur. They need to run away from the Spectre. Spectre's on fairly low HP, but now with the Wisp coming back to join him, it actually doesn't matter. Invis on effing Matt isn't going to help you with those Necrobook 3s. They throw out a Spectral Dagger, buyback from the Clinks. Spectral Dagger lands into Cryo J. Can they really chase this deep? Potentially. They're not going to go high ground, however, as the buyback is going to be forced out as Shipsagan focused down. He's a pig, and now he's dead. Spectre's alive on the back lines, and Spectre is going to survive throughout the entirety of this. Buyback available for Dazzle. A win for hehe by all of the different metrics. Buyback forced out by the Clinks, and the gold swing of 4,000 gold.
Yeah, quite the advantage right there. And now we get a gem on the Spectre. Who's going to be carrying said gem, I wonder? I mean, maybe put the refresher in the stash and just carry a gem around, considering he's so tanky?
No, I think he's just buying that for his team, give it to the likes of the Shadow Demon or the Dazzle. It might die, or they might lose the gem, rather. But I'm not sure it matters. Actually, the Venomancer is probably your prime suspect.
1 second.
Oh, okay.
Just did I see that correctly?
I'm not sure what you're looking at.
Nihis, look at his items.
Holy cannoli. Okay, so hear me out. Hear me out. When you're hitting with 190 damage a pop, now you factor in the Vladimir's offering, you actually heal more with the Satanic than you do with the Heart, if the math is correct. When you have that lifesteal on with the boosted lifesteal, that's 175% lifesteal for 3.5 seconds. Wisp-based attack time actually isn't that bad, but they find themselves in effing mad. Effing mad is effing dead. He is going to drop a gem on the ground. But yeah, I actually think the math is going to help him out because that Heart is going to be cancelled in the team fights. Satanic is not going to be so, and despite looking incredibly weird, I like this choice. I'm not sure if it's actually going to work, but in theory, it's going to heal more than the Heart.
Theoretically correct, maybe not the best form of correct, but on paper, I suppose, with that logic, it can make sense.
Yeah.
I still have to sort of scowl and think, what in Divinity's Edge is going on?
Yeah. Oh, Funzy! He's going to be forced to eat the cheese down in bottom. They do jump down to try to catch him out. He's probably going to be forced to try to man-fight this, but there is no way he's winning that fight. Cancels life drain, tries to decrepify himself, tried to life drain up anything. They're 2 illusions. Now Funzy's dead. Excalibur is wicked sick. The Wisp is going to die in the backlines where he did come back to. No buyback. It's still a win for hehe, although not hugely so.
No, not hugely slow indeed. It's a coroner support each way, but This is going to be a game for my book of favorites. I think we've seen a lot of unorthodox things in this one, and I suppose this is the thing with unorthodox. Odd things that are unorthodox are either genius or insanity. It's that middle ground, that line between. And honestly, we've seen things like an Aghanim's Treant Protector. We get to see the eyes come back. We've got a satanic wisp.
Yeah. Okay. So
we get to see it all.
Yeah. We do. Yeah, I think your next item for Wisp is hard, but honestly, I have no idea. I've never seen a Satanic Wisp, and honestly, I'm going to check this after the game on Dota just to see if it's ever been done before. Either way.
Well, we're going to see something else this game.
HWA?
Joral going to be going on HWA, and he could go down, but he's got that ethereal blade that's going to buy him enough time, and will TP out just before Excalibur kills him. That was close. That was under 400 health.
That was incredibly close. Inside the base, casually, we have a BKB and a mechanism on the ground. But yeah, Joral is going to survive within inches of his life. If that was an Abyssal Blade instead of a Butterfly, that would have been a dead Clinks. But either way, the Butterfly is a wonderful item. Even in a vacuum, the extra movement speed is nice from the Flutter if you are being focused on by an MKB target. And just the extra stats are wonderful as well. Still, anybody's game, I did not expect it to actually turn out like this. I was either going to say that if he make it to this point and their Spectre is the most farmed hero on the map, they're going to win the game flat out. But with the way that the game led up to this, it's just not going to be the case. The net worth graphs and the experience graphs don't mean anything. They've sat at about 15,000, 20,000 for the entirety of the game. Yeah, those are negligible. Spectre is the only hero on the map that matters for he. Denial have a Pugna as well as the Clinks, which is kind of nice, but honestly, it's just the Clinks.
Yeah, in all honesty, I will agree. It is just the Clinks, and I completely agree to the fact that crafts mean very little at this point. I mean, the best thing to keep an eye on as some form of control is the buyback status. That means everything right now.
Okay, look at the dire vision. Look how many freaking eyes in the forest they have. It's cancer.
Holy hell. I suppose this is why it's good to see it come back. This is why you would used to pick Treant back in the days where Eyes of the Forest was one of his base abilities back in Dota 1. I mean, this is good to see once again. I mean, you can have vision everywhere, see everything. It's just pure gold to see once more.
It's map hack. That's what it is.
No, Night Stalker's map hack.
This is pretty close. It's flying vision from trees.
I suppose, but they can't move.
Yeah. Okay,
There's your basher. There's your basher.
Yeah, there we go. Now it's time to start flipping things around. It's completed Abyssal on Spectre. He is going to ship out that Radiance. I like this choice from the Spectre. It's time. It's time for this. Eventually, you might consider something to replace that Refresher Orb that maybe his illusions can benefit from. I don't know what that would be. Spectre is, for all intents and purposes, completely capped out. It is the Radiance on the courier, actually, so what he's going to do is he's going to swap the Refresher for the Radiance, make the Haunt illusions, and then swap the Refresher back, refresh Haunt, and then swap the Radiance. It's a little bit of a juggling act, but he'll have that Radiance burn throughout the team fight, as well as having double Haunt.
If he can actually make that pay off with the juggling of items like that, it's actually going to be one feat of absolute skill and micro. And this is an Excalibur, of course. Yeah, so I expect no less. The only threat and real risk is if this courier gets picked off. I mean, if it gets picked off right now, Abyssal Blade offline, that'll be a huge thing. But
yes, it will. But then again, he's still going to be fighting at the same caliber that he has been for the rest of the team fights, and it's only going to be down for like 2 minutes. So, I mean, with the pace of this game, that might not end at all, but still, it does make this courier become one of the most important heroes on the side of hehe.
The courier's a hero now.
Yes.
I suppose standards go out the window at this point, as we get near the 17-minute mark.
He's glowing. He's carrying an Abyssal Blade. He has more net worth than most couriers do.
Don't tempt me. We get that relocate. Are we going to be seeing any form of offensive relocate? No. It's going to be a relocate back to defend the base. They really cannot leave this middle lane unoccupied for too long. Of course, they did get that 1 Rax deficit, but now we get that mass TP back in the fight. This could be the one that decides everything. Jorel taking a large amount of damage, but BKB forced by the Batrider. Now Paris doesn't really want to risk getting caught, but Excalibur just comes in the main side of the fight. It's a big kill for him. They managed to bring down the Clinks, who will immediately buy back. Funzy in a lot of trouble now as well, starting to take their few more right clicks will be more than enough to finish him off if they can get on point, but the illusions won't be able to seal the deal, and he just drains life a little bit too much for them to finish him off. So force one kill, force one buyback. Equally, they managed to get 2 kills in exchange. Offensive disruption comes out to Jural, but they're going to lose the Kun to one more right click, and that's a double kill for Jural off the back of that buyback.
Still, the Spectre survives. The Radiance is dropped. Just casually, right here. Okay. That's gonna get killed. They're gonna find a Radiance for themselves. Where's the courier? They're currently sending 2 couriers out to pick that up. One with 5 tangos on it, and the other's the Shagbark we saw earlier. Radiance, the creeps are casually walking by it. Come on and kill the stupid sword.
So it's a case that they're sending out a distraction courier and the main courier to pick up that damn Radiance. I see. Roshan going down this time in favor of Denial. This will at least help them in terms of surviving that threat of a Spectre. And they'll put the Aegis onto effing Mad, so he's going to at least guarantee the ability to get off an Overgrowth. Ferrying Radiance... Christ. This is Hehe United, ladies and gentlemen. I've come to expect absolute madness out of Hehe. I've seen pretty much everything you can think of, and down goes the courier. 5,150 net worth.
That was
now
the
dead.
Radiance.
That's pretty big. Pretty damn big.
I mean, they still have the Abyssal and the Refresher. Refresher is often cooldown for 80 seconds, so they're not going to have the double Refresher or double Abyssal for that. But still, the Spectre was able to assassinate the Clinks. Clinks is not going to have buyback for the longest time, and if they can replicate that fight, even if they lose all of their supports, as long as the Spectre lives, it doesn't matter. And the Wisp, I was hoping for the Satanic to actually be used there. It wasn't, so take that as you will. I want to see some big heals coming up from that Wisp.
You want to see Satanic healing Wisp?
Yes.
I see. But
I want to see crit is the next item for Nihiz.
Back in the realm of... Oh, God. I was about to say back in the realm of sanity, but no, apparently not.
Out the window.
Yeah, sanity went out the window when we got past the hour mark, just like with all casts. This is, I suppose, standard these days. But this 3 plus Venomancer heal Excalibur kind of strategy is actually paying off if they can take it this late. I mean, Excalibur is exceptionally hard to kill. How do you deal with him? Part of me wants to say this is a game where a Rapier could be a possibility from Denial just to kill Excalibur. But
yeah, I mean,
if they lose said Rapier...
Okay. It would be all in for Jural, but he'd have to replace the Blink. There's your first taunt coming out from Excalibur. Does very little to nothing. He is going to Reality on the backlines, however. They're not able to get any kills. They lose to Tier 3. But at this point, that Tier 3 doesn't really matter. The gold is negligible towards the enemy team. The Rapier is actually not as risky as you'd think, since he does have a Satanic, as well as a lot of attack speed, ability to lock down with the Scythe. And if he drops it, who's going to pick it up? The Wisp? Yeah. Yeah,
in your dream world, the Wisp would pick it up just for massive healing of a Satanic. I suppose. So this is World of Grandis, I suppose, right now.
Well, I mean, Spectre would have to drop the Refresher or something huge in order to pick it up. I'm not sure he'd be able to use it effectively. It would probably be picked up by one of the supports and then just left in the base. Maybe Excalibur can juggle another item on that courier, but I doubt it. And if the courier dies, the Rapier, my goodness, that other relic item is going to be on the ground.
Well, relics get abandoned, what can we say? But, as we look at this, I was going to say, let's bring up the graph, take a look. No point in that anymore, really. I mean, we can bring up the numbers on the graph just for sheer massive numbers. I mean, that's a 30,000 gold lead, the way of Denial in team net worth, and a 30,000 experience lead. But it does not matter. That golden experience means nothing. The healing power of Hehe is more than enough to sustain Excalibur, and Excalibur is juggling around items now. I mean, I think this is a 6, 7 slot Excalibur right now, or is this an 8 slot now? Just the Radiance on the courier for now.
Yeah, it's only 7. Just a respectable 7. They also have some casual tangos for HWA to eat through some of the Eyes of the Forest, but, I mean, if we take a look at the Eyes again, they have grown even more. Some of the ones on their side have been deworded on this area of the map, but every other spot on the map has almost complete vision for Denial.
This is, I suppose, the one downside of, say, Denial right now. The Batrider's Firefly is killing a few of the Eyes of the Forest.
That is unfortunate for them. I think he's killed more Eyes of the Forest than Hehe have.
Yeah, that seems about right. I mean, it is a Batrider after all, the enemy of all trees, but
Timbersaw. I think that's the only hero that can take that over him.
yeah, possibly. I mean,
I mean, with
Timber,
the double chakram, you could cut through like this entire side of trees.
I've seen that video as well, Brandis.
Yes.
Now we get that haunt, though. What are we looking for with that? They're not going to be able to get anything on that top lane. Effing Mad should be safe in that invis. They're just going to haunt for the sake of haunting, but now they're going to turn around. Nihil's taking a lot of damage, a couple of crits, more than enough to bring him down. This is almost enough to kill him. He will go down with that last right click, and now in comes Excalibur. Can Excalibur do anything to equalize this buyback immediately by the Wisp? And he wants to come back in, trying to save Excalibur's life here, but Dural's still trading blows. Yule's up onto that Spectre. In comes an Overgrowth. That's the 3-man Overgrowth. That's a huge one. As well as the Batrider of Paris. That is just locking down Excalibur a little bit longer. If they can finish him off, that's going to be absolutely huge. But they can do it with that last bit of the life drain on Funzy. A couple of right clicks through will clean up that Venomancer. And can they finish the job? Can they get Nihis again? Can they get Tip Sage in? Buyback immediately from that Batrider. Just life drain after life drain. Funzy, steals, and everything. Chip's agent will try to buy some time, but that Shallow Grave won't save him this time. Life Drain does in another one.
Suddenly, like that, hehe just made this game so much harder for themselves. I think the biggest thing that Spectre did that fight that really kind of lost it for them was the second haunt. I'd love to see Spectre hold on to that haunt so that they have a way to initiate in the fights after the buyback. Right now, Spectre has buyback, but his damage actually doesn't matter. The Satanic actually came out pretty huge for the IO there. I kind of hate to say that because you're going to give me flack for it, but either way, it healed up the Spectre to about half after being dropped incredibly low. We are going to have the lasso initiation. Yep, Excalibur being focused down, the life drain coming through. He's not falling as fast as I thought he would because of dispersion, but he doesn't have a wisp to keep him alive. He's manting, trying to turn. He's not getting enough damage off before he falls. He is BKB, trying to get out of there. He's going to die, and for all intents and purposes, that's it. The tree is going to die, and the Clinks, he's burning down the poison. He's also going to fall. Double kill for the Venomancer, but buyback from the Clinks should secure this game for them. Boots of Travel are available for him, although on cooldown for 20 seconds, the base is completely breached, and the tier 4s are going to fall after the second lane, and I think they've done it.
This is only game one, though. They have to do it all over again. This is a best of 3, ladies and gentlemen. We started at 7:30 CEST, and this is only game number 1. Denial versus hehe round 2 coming up next as well. So
I'm not sure I can do it. Teams, have mercy, please. Let's see. GG called out as the base dive does continue, as the throne is going to expire. We are going to get into game 2 very shortly. So thanks for watching here on the ESFX stream on HeflaTV. Sorry about the technical issues with the ESFX platform. Hopefully those will be smoothed out in the later days. But either way, if you want to follow us, we're on Twitter and Facebook at HeflaTV, and we currently have a giveaway for the tickets of this tournament going on our Facebook page at HeflaTV. So if you're interested, go ahead and leave a comment on that post, and you'll be entered into the raffle to get one of the tickets. If you want to watch on the in-game, that'd be the way to do it. But either way, into game number 2, we're going to go quickly with me and Blackadder.